Okay, so I've got 2 minutes to tell you all about startups and their challenges around AI. That's kind of a tall order. So at the moment at Campus, which is our space for entrepreneurs, we are deep in a machine learning program for 6 very early stage companies in this area. They've on average raised about 1.2 million, and they are teams of 5 to 15 people. And through this, I've really observed a couple of really interesting challenges. The first is that we treat AI companies like the software companies of 5 years ago, but they're not. And that's important for 2 reasons. The first one is funding. It's capitally very intensive to begin any machine learning company. The salaries are very high, things take longer to build. But VCs expect results very quickly, and they look at success metrics that scale like this. The second challenge really is around testing. My dad works in aerospace, and they have a really robust testing model before any humans go anywhere near anything. And why that's important is if my software crashes, I'm annoyed. If my driverless car crashes, not so great. And I think those two combined means that AI companies are getting pushed to bring things to market very, very, very fast. And that's where I think we're seeing a lot of challenges. Increasingly, we have to be very thoughtful about this field and think of it not as the software 5 years ago, but a very different kind of software. And things that I particularly want to advocate for include more long-term kind of government funding. If you look at DARPA, there should be, I think the Wendy Hall review recently did some great steps in this area, but there should be a lot more of that. The second really big challenge, you've heard a lot about this today, is around bias in training data. There are certain kinds of companies where this is comparatively benign. So for example, Ninefin, one company that I'm working with, they use computer vision to scan bond data really quickly and extract tables. So in that case, any human biases going in there would not be the worst thing in the world. They simply would be, if they looked at a different kind of pile of data, they would have to reset their training data to make it more efficient. But when you're thinking about healthcare, when you're thinking about crime prevention, these have terrible outcomes for all of us, any of us that want to live in a more modern, a more fair society. And beyond that, it's not just the data itself, it's also those who work in machine learning. It's been really interesting to me. We have 40% female founders at my space. We've worked really hard on building a space that's very inclusive. Within machine learning, we're down to under 10%. And it's fascinating to me that in this very highly academic, high-tech field, it's very hard to attract certain types of talent in. And I think there's a lot more that we should do as society to sort of reset the balance of who's building these kind of companies. And I think with Google, we're kind of working on a project right now called Pair that is very intriguing. It's looking at human-centered open source tools to help everyone be thinking about creating fair and equitable data to use in their particular products. So the second part that I was given was trust. And I think trust has 2 parts, B2B and B2C. A lot of my companies are looking for their first clients. And a lot of those big companies, if they don't have in-house teams, are very, very nervous about working with a small startup for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. Testing has to be very precise. A lot of the time there are success metrics that make large companies nervous. How do we get large companies more comfortable testing with very small firms when they have a comparatively small number of users and a small number of teammates? And the second piece is B2C, and I think Kenneth touched on this a lot. We don't trust what we don't understand. I think so far we've done not a very good job communicating what AI is and what it can bring. I think the tech has to improve, but I also think we have to improve the way that we speak about it. We're battling 100 years of sentient robots, whether it's Metropolis or Ex Machina. And I think beyond that, what I really hope to talk about on this panel is the debate that we all have to have, not just government, not just big companies, not just startups, but all of us as society around the kind of tech we want to build. Just because something can be built doesn't mean it should be built. Just because something is more efficient doesn't mean it's the right tech for all of us. So how do we have this big debate? Who owns it? Where does it sit? And how do we take this trust and look towards the future more optimistically? Thank you.